Hi and welcome to this video. In this video, you're going to see how to set up Debian 12 on DigitalOcean. You're going to see how to do a Debian 12 initial server setup for DigitalOcean. So I'm going to use this post. I will put the link in the description. First thing, let's deploy a DigitalOcean Debian 12 droplet. And I'll click there on create droplet. I will choose Frankfurt. Image, of course, I want Debian and I want Debian 12. I will go with the basic shared CPU and I will choose the $14 plan and I will go with the premium AMD. You can choose any one of this. I don't need additional storage. If this is a production server, just enable backups. It's 20% more or 30% more for a daily backup. And then choose authentication method. I'm not going to use an SSH key. I'm just going to use a password and store the password somewhere where you can remember it. So let me come here and I'm going to open VS Code. I will use this to add any text that I will need, any commands I will need to edit. I will add them on VS Code. So I can generate a password and I'm just going to copy it. So based on the rules, the uppercase cannot be first or the last letter. Copy it. This is going to be our root password. You can add improved metrics and then the host name. Use a host name that is a fully qualified domain name. And by using a fully qualified domain name, you won't have to change the host name later. So I can use something like panel dot. So that's pretty much it. And we can just create the droplet. So let the droplet finish deploying and then we're going to log in. And we'll start the initial server setup. So if you're on Windows, go and download Git, follow along with Git Bash. Open Git Bash and follow along with that. In my case, I'm just going to open Terminator. This is a terminal I'm going to be using. We'll log into the server. You can just open it, click on it to open it, and you're going to see everything about your droplet. Click to copy the IP. Let's try to log in. So I will do SSH. The user by default will be root. Ctrl+Shift+V to paste on terminal. Accept by typing yes, enter. And the password, copy. Ctrl+Shift+V to paste. There we go, you're logged in. So I'm just going to copy this and I will add it here just in case I will need it at some point. So if you don't have a DigitalOcean account, you can get $200 credit. You can get $200 of free credit. You can click on that link. I will also add the link in the description below. SSH into the server we've logged in, and then we're going to update the server and then install this. Copy. They're probably already installed, but let's just install them. Ctrl+L, Ctrl+Shift+V to paste. If you're on Git Bash, you can use Shift Insert to paste. Here, you'll just press Tab to go to OK, and then enter. Next, you're going to add an admin user, and this is the user you're going to use to administrate your server. At some point, we are going to disable the root user from logging in, so that's why you do this. So you can give the user any name. In this case, I'm just going to use the example that I have here. And then after that, we're going to add the user to the sudoers group, so they can do commands like sudo apt update. These are commands that can only be done by the root user, but with sudo, they will be able to do these commands. So let's copy that. Ctrl+L to clear the screen. Ctrl+Shift+V, enter. So give the user a password. I'm just going to skip this by pressing on enter. And then press enter. The new user is now created and added to the sudo group. Now the next step is to make sure that this user can use sudo. We're going to log in on a different tab. Control C, Control V, and the user is, I'm just going to add it here because I might need it. Copy that. I'll open a new terminal. Control Shift V to paste. Try to log in as the new user that you've just created. Enter. Now let's try to do something with sudo. Sudo-s to switch to the root user. See if you can use the sudo command. Enter your user password. Alright, so since we can do this, it means that we are able to use the sudo command. So that means that now you can use the new user to administer your server, to administrate the server as the root user. So I don't need that. I'm just going to close that terminal. And from now on, we can just use the other user. So I'm going to log out of this user, log in as the new user. And then the next step is to set up SSH key authentication for the new user. And after doing that, we're going to disable password authentication and the root login. So of course, the first step is to generate the password. And then we're going to copy the key to our server. And then we're going to log in with the SSH key. So let me just prepare all these commands. And it's going to seem like I'm doing them in one go. So I'm going to copy the first one, which is to generate SSH key. And I'm going to paste it here. I want to add them together. So first we'll create a directory. This is where we'll store the SSH keys. And we're going to generate a key of that type, ed25519 key. And then the file will be stored here. So this is the name of our key. The key that will be generated will be that.pub and that for a private key. Let's come back. So after we generate the key, you need to add the key to your public server, to your server, I mean. I'm just going to copy the second one there. SSH copy ID. So this is going to copy the public key, and that is a key we generated up there. And it's going to copy it for the user we've just created. So I'm going to copy this, the user and the IP. Let's see if there's anything else we can add here. So we can also add in the login. So to log in, we'll do SSH. And then your user and the IP will go there. And now we will be logging in with the identity of our key, our private key that has been generated. So the key, private key generated is that. Control V. Okay, so let me just go through it one last time before I run the entire thing. So I'm going to run it from there. Create directory for your keys. You can give the directory any name. And then we're going to generate a key of that type. And the key will be stored there. And the name of the key will be that. And then after that, we're going to add our key to our server. And we're going to do that. And this is the key we are going to add, the key, the public key that has been generated. And we're going to add that key for this user on this IP. And then finally, we're going to use that key to log in our user. And this time around, we're logging in with the private key. So I'm just going to run this together. Copy, and I need to run this on my local computer. So I'm going to open terminal here. I can open another instance of Terminator, and then I'm going to paste all the commands there. So I'll press enter. You can see I already have a key with that name because I did a tutorial for Valtra using the same steps. So if this is your situation and you don't want to overwrite the key, you can just change the name of the folder or the name of the key. For me, I'm just going to press Y to overwrite the key. I'm not using it anywhere else, so I can just overwrite the key. You can enter a passphrase for your key. In my case, I'm just going to press enter to skip the passphrase. Okay, the key has been generated. Now it's going to the next command, trying to add it to our server. And now it's asking for the password for this user. This is the user you created earlier. Enter the password for that user. And then eventually it's going to try to log in with the server with a key. And you can see we are now in the server. All right. So I just chained them together to save me some time. I don't want to type wait. Control L to clear the screen. And what is next? So we've generated our key. The next step is to disable the root user from logging in. To do that, we can create our custom SSH configuration file and add password authentication no and permit root login no. So if you need to edit anything in SSH, you can always just add it in your custom configuration file, at least in the recent Ubuntu and Debian. So there's something I want to confirm if it exists in DigitalOcean as well, and that is there's a default init configuration file for SSH that is created when the server is deployed. So let's just confirm if this exists in DigitalOcean as well, because on Valtra I found it. So let's see, Control-Shift-V ls to see if there's anything inside there. And yes, there's something inside there, so I was right. This is going to affect our configuration. Let me just rename it, and if I rename it, it will not be loaded along with our configuration files. Control-Shift-V, this is going to rename that file. User password. All right, so now we can disable password authentication root login. So I'm just going to copy that. Basically what this does is it just adds these 2 lines in this file. It's going to create that file and add those 2 lines, and then it's going to restart SSH. So I just put them together to save you time. Control-Shift-V, enter. All right, so if I was to look inside of that file ls, you'll see our custom file is there, and we can even view what's inside of the file. Tab, Control-Delete, cut to view the content of this file, and inside of that file you're going to see we have permit root login no and password authentication no. By doing that, we have disabled password authentication and root login, but let us confirm. And let me just copy the login line. So this is the one that you use to log in, and you can just save it somewhere so that next time you need to log in, you can just copy it and paste it into your terminal. So I'll open a different terminal window. I need to confirm if I'm able to log in as a root user. So first, actually, I need to get this. So before I do anything here, let me open up htop, because sometimes the server will log you out if it is dormant for a while, and I don't want that to happen. Control-Shift-V, enter, permission denied. That's what we want to see. And at the same time, let's try to log in with this other user, with the new user we created without an SSH key, to see if we are able to log in. Control-Shift-V, enter. Okay, so that's what we want to see. The root user cannot log in, and you cannot log into the server without an SSH key. So to log in, you're going to have to copy this line and use that to log into your server. You must log in with an SSH key. All right, so that is done. The next step is firewall setup. So if you're going to install a control panel that comes with a firewall already set up, you don't need to do this. You can skip this. And HDRCP is one of the few that I know that will do this for you. I think even CyberPanel will enable the firewall for you, so you don't have to do this. But if you are using Docker or you're installing things that doesn't come with a firewall setup, you're going to need to set up a firewall. Here, what's happening is you install the firewall, and then you enable the firewall. And in this case, we're using UFW. And UFW is an easy interface for setting up the firewall on Debian or Ubuntu. You can allow different things. If you want to allow SSH, that's how you allow it. If you want to allow HTTP, that's port 80, that's how you allow it. If you want to allow HTTPS, that's port 443, that's how you allow that. And if you want to allow other ports, maybe there's a specific port you want to allow. And this is something we're going to do in a moment as we change the SSH port. I'll just copy this. So remember, it's going to install, enable, and allow this. If you want to allow anything else, you can just add it as another command. So let's come back here. I'll do Control-C to get out of that. Control-L to clear the screen. Control-Shift-V to paste. Enter. It's just asking you to confirm, do you really want to enable the firewall? Because it might affect the network. It might lock you out if certain ports are not enabled. So just press Y, enter to confirm, and you're going to see that the rules have been added. And if you are to do sudo UFW status, it's going to show you the allowed ports. Control-L. And after we set up the firewall, this is a nice way to go into the next step, which is to change the SSH port. I'm going to change the SSH port to that. If you want to, you can use a different port. Just make sure that the port that you're using is not being used by anything else. Copy. We are going to allow that port. Control-Shift-V. And if I was to do UFW status, you're going to see the new port has been added. Control-L to clear the screen. Then I'll come back and we want to add this line to the custom SSH file that we created up there. So I'm just going to copy that. Control-Shift-V. Enter. We can try to log in. And I'll just log in with this. I can exit to log out. Control-L, Control-Shift-V to paste, enter, and you can see connection refused. Try again, connection refused. Now, if you need to log in, you're going to have to do -P with the new port. -P with the new port, enter. And just like that, now you're logged into your server with your new port. Let's see what is next. You can create a swap file, but before that, let's just confirm if DigitalOcean creates a swap for us. Okay, so you can see there's no swap file. So to create one, let's come back here, and a swap file, if you have like 2 GB of memory, a swap file is just a place that can temporarily be used to store certain files to prevent the system from crashing when you run out of memory. Sometimes it might crash, so just create a swap. Since you're on 2 GB, you should probably create one for 4 GB, and you're going to change that. You can also change the name that you give to the swap file. All the instances with Debian swap file, you can change those to whatever you prefer. I'm going to copy that, bring it to the terminal, Control-Shift-V, Control-A to go to the beginning of the line. And I want to change the size of the file to 4 GB. So what's happening here is, first of all, we create that file and allocate it 4 GB. And then we're going to change the permissions of that file we've just created. And then that file, we're going to convert it to a swap file. And then we're going to turn on the swap. And then we're going to make the swap persist by adding a line to the etc fstub. So I'm just going to enter. And now if you were to do free-h, you'll see that we have a swap of 4 GB. Change the server host name. Now this is something you can do, but if you set up your host name, like I told you, you don't need to change this. Let's just confirm if the host name has been set up. Okay, the host name is there, -f. And our host name is correctly showing what we added when we were deploying our server. So if you didn't see that, just go back to where I deployed my server and I said you can use a fully qualified domain name like that for your host name. And the next thing we want to confirm is if this has been added on our etc hosts. If it is not there, you're going to need to add it. etc hosts. enter. So you can see it's already added there. Escape, Shift ZQ to get out of that without saving. All right, so what is next? The last item is automatic updates. Set up automatic updates. So the unattended upgrades package is what is used for automating updates in Ubuntu and Debian. So that's what I'm going to install. So we are going to first of all install it and install it with that. And then we are going to enable automatic updates. And this, by running this, you're going to generate this file and you can edit this file to enable automatic updates. And these are just what is inside of the file that you'll be able to edit. So I'm going to copy everything there. Just click there to copy. And I'll do Ctrl+Shift+V, enter. And then I'll accept, yes. All right, so this is the last command, and the last command was to open that file. So I just ran them together instead of running one at a time. I put them together. If I scroll down in this section where there is unattended upgrades, I can delete these two lines, and that's because I want to update the apps as well. So any applications that are installed using sudo apt install for the default Debian repositories, I can update them with that. Even the proposed updates, I'm going to allow that as well. So I can just delete the comment, delete the comment. Right now, even if I do escape and then Shift ZZ to save, so I'm sure automatic updates have been set up. So just as simple as that, your automatic updates for default Debian has been set up. Now, what if you have third-party repositories, right? Like right now, I don't have any third-party repositories. I've just installed the server. Let's say I add Kubernetes. The best example I can show with this is Kubernetes. So if I come here to my site as well, instead of going to the documentation, I can add the Kubernetes repository, install kubeadm, kubectl, and all those applications. These are just for demos. They're not important for you to know what they're for. So I'm going to install kubeadm, kubectl. So somewhere here, we add the repository for Kubernetes. So I'm going to copy this entire thing. It's going to add the repository for Kubernetes, and it's also going to install kubelet, kubeadm, and all those. And I'm going to use that to show you how to auto update third-party repositories. Ctrl+L, Ctrl+Shift+V to paste, and I will run that. Even right now, if I was to, let's go back to Debian 12 initial setup. Right now, if I was to try and dry run the unattended upgrades. So I'm just going to copy that. We're going to see that no packages found can be upgraded, no pending auto removals. And that is not true because you saw that I installed Kubernetes. So next, let's see how we can set up third-party repositories. And in this case, the third-party repository that we have is Kubernetes. So the first thing, let me open up VS Code. There, auto update third-party repositories. So the default for Debian, if you look at this, let me copy this because I'm going to need it a bunch of times. Oh, and something else before I forget, this thing usually just logs me out if I don't do something for a while. So let me just leave htop running there for a moment. And this is just to make sure that the server doesn't auto log me out. So I'm just going to come here and Ctrl+V, I'm going to paste that in there, and Ctrl+C, Ctrl+Shift+V. So you can see this is the default of how the distros are being labeled or being identified. Let's see how we can get our Kubernetes repository to look like that. Escape, Shift, ZZ, and I will leave htop running. I'm just running htop so it doesn't log me out. So we've established that this is how the others are being labeled in the unattended upgrades file. So let's come here and I'm going to paste that in there. That is a reference that we're going to use to edit and make sure our Kubernetes as well can also be added there so that it is updated. So the first thing we need to do, let's see all the repositories that are available on our Ubuntu, that are available on our Debian, I mean. So I will come here and I will list, Control C to get out of htop, and then Control Shift V to paste. And we want to see all the repositories that are available here. So you can see all these are Debian related. We don't care for the ones from debian.org. Those will be updated. The one we care about are the ones from Kubernetes. So we are going to copy this one, Kubernetes in release. So go for the in release, copy, come back. I will paste that in there. And let's come back here. And now we want to find out information about that repository. So I'm going to go up to here, copy. So this was an example I just added there with HTTP, but of course we don't have HTTP installed in this case. So I'm just going to use this. We want to see the file, the information for this repository. So that's why we are cutting to read the repository details. So let's come back, Control L to clear the screen, Control Shift V, enter. All right, so scroll all the way up, because the only thing we are interested in here is from there to there. So I will copy that. I'm just going to paste the details there. We are going to make those details match this. All right, so origin, what are we told is the origin there? Copy the whole thing, origin, copy the whole origin from there, and then origin is equals to where Debian is, replace with the one for Kubernetes. And then after that we need the code name. Code name, what are we told is the code name here? Code name we're being told is deb. So let's come back here, and where code name is, remove everything before the comma and then replace with deb. And then label, what is a label? The label we're being told is ISV, Kubernetes stable version 130. So copy, and we're going to replace that with that. Control V. And now the moment of testing. So this is a part where this is why I chose to use Kubernetes, because you can see the repository is 130, but let me make the repository for this as 131. And we are going to change the repository for Kubernetes to 131. And you'll see that auto upgrades will help us upgrade it. Okay, so right now we've installed version 130, kubectl, kubeadm, and kubectl. It doesn't matter what those are. It's just that we're using those applications, we're using those packages as examples. So this is what you need to copy. So for every item that you want to auto update, make sure you find out its details and then you replace them. You replace them for that. Okay, just like I've done with this. So I'll come back here, and I want to first of all open this file, the unattended upgrades file, copy. Let's come back. I will do Control C to get out of htop, Control L, Control Shift V, and then enter. And then let's come to that point, and I'm just going to press tab. Before I press tab, let me go into insert mode. So to go into insert mode in Vim, I'm just pressing I, then I'll press tab so that we can get some indentation there. I'll go back here and I will copy that. Control Shift V to paste. So the one for Kubernetes has been added. So right now, if you have others to add, just paste them after that. And that's how you do it for this file. So for this file, we are done with it. I'm just going to press escape and then Shift ZZ to save and exit. After that, the next thing, of course, is the moment of testing. So if I was to do the unattended upgrades dry run, copy. So the dry run, just as the name suggests, it dry runs it. So Control Shift V and then enter. So take a note of this. Okay, look down there. You're going to see no packages found that can be upgraded, right? And that is true because our Kubernetes is still at version 130. So let's replace the Kubernetes version from 130 and let's make the new Kubernetes version let us say that we change the Kubernetes repository from version 130 to version 131. So if I change it to version 131, you'll see that now there is something to upgrade. So I've changed version 130 there, and then enter. Kubernetes repository has been updated. So let's do apt update and check if, okay, so now that I can see 5 packages can be upgraded, this means that unattended upgrades can also identify those packages that need to be updated, but not that they can't be upgraded, because Kubernetes usually hold these items so they're not updated. If you want to update Kubernetes, you have to explicitly update it manually. So there we go, enter. And if I run that, you can see that it is telling me that the list of kept packages can't be calculated. So let me do this, okay? Let me, instead of dry run, let me just do debug without dry run. Enter. And now you'll see that, so I did debug without dry run because dry run is not going to show you packages that have been held back. So here you can see that kubeadm is marked as held back, but it has an update. So this means that unattended upgrades can actually update the third-party repositories. So right now, if I was to unhold these packages, and this is just a Kubernetes thing, but if this was another package, it would have automatically updated those items. So let's say, for example, that I come here and I unhold these packages. Okay, so you can see Kubernetes usually hold them back, so they're not updated automatically, or when you do apt update, apt upgrade, it doesn't update those items. Unhold, so you can just do sudo apt mark unhold, and this is going to unhold these packages. All right, so the hold on them has been cancelled. Right now, if I was to do sudo unattended upgrades debug, it's going to update those packages. So what can you see? All upgrades have been installed. Any repository that you add in that file will be updated, and you've seen how to get to that point. Everything you need is on this post. On the Debian 12 initial server setup, at the end of the day, you have to do it for any repository that you add, but at least now you're sure that all your repositories will be updated automatically, not just the Debian repositories. If the video is too long, I hope it was worth it, and now you know how to automatically update all your Debian packages, all your Debian repositories. And that's it. That's how to do an initial server setup for Debian 12. If you have any questions, let me know. If you need help with this, you can find me on Fiverr. I'm just going to put the link in the description below. If you need help, you'll just let me know. That's it. Until next time.